Hi, welcome to the third season of MCC Connects. I'm Mary Jo Griffin. Joining me today is Susan Woods, Associate Dean of Student Support Services. Welcome,
right.
Susan.
Hi, nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. I always like to start with asking a little bit about my guest, the guest here today. So you are the Associate Dean of Student Support Services.
Yes.
How did you end up at Middlesex? What is your background?
Oh, it's a long story, but
okay.
I've been at Middlesex for 24 years. I started before the Bedford campus was built, before the Lowell campus was built or taken over, and I started part-time working in the transition program, which we're going to talk about a bit today, which is a unique program, and I was part-time at the time and had small children. Over the years, my job has evolved, and I now oversee all student support services. I work with the Dean of Students, so that includes the transition program, disability support services, counseling, our trio support programs, and academic support and tutoring.
All right, so tell us about the transition program.
Well, I love talking about the transition program. It's my lifeblood. So the transition program was started 28 years ago. And actually the person that was at the helm of Middlesex Community College, and really we credit with making it happen, was President Houlihan. And President Houlihan and a number of administrators saw a need for an alternative program for students for whom college-level academics would not be the right fit. Something that's going to prepare them for the work world, prepare them for life, prepare them for independence. The program was modeled from a program that exists, and I like to give them credit. It's at Lesley University. And we looked at that program, or my predecessors did, and said, we want to adopt this for the community college. And that's what they did. So the transition program started in 1985, and it's a 2-year non-credit certificate program designed for students with significant learning disabilities and challenges for whom college-level academics, even with support, would not necessarily be the right fit.
So how do you go about recruiting your students for the transition program?
There's a number of ways. We do a lot of work with our local high schools, both public, private, voc techs, and we also partner with a lot of human service agencies like the Mass Rehab Commission. We do a lot of outreach to the high schools. We also hold public information sessions. We do a lot of marketing. We do a lot of information. And some of our students come from a very, very long distance or a wide geographic area because this is a unique program. This model doesn't exist at any other community college. So we've had students come along with the Merrimack Valley and Middlesex County. We've had students coming from Boston, from southern New Hampshire, from the Worcester area, from the North Shore, and they've all traveled. The program is housed on the Bedford campus, but students participate in internships from Boston all the way up to Nashua.
Explain to me exactly what is a transitional student. What is the criteria to be a transitional student?
There's a few pieces. It's a selective program, so we are looking at applicants and we're looking at a number of things. We're looking at some information, their background from high school. All of our students have a history of receiving special education. We look at some of the evaluations from the high school, which sort of indicate what their reading, writing, and math, where that falls in terms of grade equivalence, and also their level of independence. An ideal candidate is not any one type of student, but generally our students may be characterized as having significant learning disabilities. They may have reading, writing, and math that falls roughly between the 5th and the 8th grade equivalent range. So the challenge of an academic curriculum at a college level may be not the best fit for them.
The goal for them and for you in the transitional program is to have them independent in the workforce. So I know that a big piece of your program is the internship.
Right.
So, and that's how many days a week?
Well, let me tell you a little bit how it works. So a student comes into the program, they actually participate in classes 3 days a week on the Bedford campus. 4 classes, and the focus of the classes are both independent living, vocational skill development, personal and social development, communication skills, as well as job success and job seeking skills. So that occurs on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. On Tuesdays and Thursdays, all of our students participate in an internship, about a 7-hour day, placed in a company, and I'll tell you a little bit about the companies in a moment, and they're doing work that matches their vocational direction, their goals, and also matches what we're being trained in. Our students are earning a certificate in office and business support. So they're doing a number of operations that support a business or an operation. They may be data entry clerks, they may be doing clerical work, they may be doing maintenance, shipping and receiving, mailroom distribution, all things that keep the trains running, so to speak, in a business. So, for example, we have a strong relationship with the local hospitals because they have a lot of tasks or jobs that are very well suited to these students in training. We're also always developing new internship sites. One of our most recent is the Durkin Company. And we have sites in Boston at Suffolk University. We have sites in career centers, the Career Place and JobNet, as well as private companies.
Looking back on all the students you've had, are there any that stand out in particular?
There's numbers of standout,
Sure.
and what's interesting is that since I've been involved in the program so long, we've had 3 reunions. Every 5 years is what I've committed to, and we've had over 100 students come back to attend the reunion. It's quite a big gala with a DJ and catered event, and the great thing that I see is the students that have left the program, they're working, they're independent, they have good, rich lives, but they're also still connected with the students they met in the program.
Oh, that's
so they come back, and it's a real genuine relationship, and they've sustained the relationships, which is really special.
Susan Woods, thank
you.
you so much, Associate Dean of Student Support Services. Thank you so much.
Nice seeing you.
We're going to take a short break. Please stay tuned.
Middlesex Community College is a great place to begin your future. With more than 75 degree and certificate programs and hundreds of non-credit courses, Middlesex can help you earn a degree, start a bachelor's degree, or upgrade your skills. And their schedule fits your schedule. They offer classes during the day, evening, and weekends on campus and online. Middlesex Community College, a great place to begin your future. To learn more, visit middlesex.mass.edu.
Welcome back to MCC Connects. September 17th is Constitution Day in the United States of America. And each year, every college and university in the United States must pay tribute to our Constitution. So this year, Middlesex Community College was honored to have Boston Police Commissioner Ed Davis join us to discuss how the Constitution had an effect on the Boston Marathon occurrence.
So we want to talk today about the Constitution, and that's a tremendous topic because the Constitution plays an enormous role in everything that police officers do. We train on it extensively in the police academy. 22 weeks of training all around the criminal laws of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. But the truth of the matter is, much of it is training that's based upon the Fourth Amendment, the Fifth Amendment, the Sixth Amendment, so that people understand, police officers who have to exercise their duties, understand the importance of the Constitution and how that plays a role in what we do day in and day out. And I will tell you that in the early morning hours of Friday, just after the marathon, when we were in Watertown and we were chasing these terrorists down, the Constitution and questions around the Constitution played an important role in the decisions that we were making. And I hope to give you some insight on that. I have to be cautious because I can't tell you everything that we knew at that time. There's an ongoing federal investigation. There are 4 prosecutions that are pending in the United States District Court for Massachusetts. And so some of the information that we had is still confidential. But I can tell you, not exactly what we reported to the governor and the mayor, but I can tell you a little bit about how serious we thought that was. And so I'll do the best that I can to skirt the confidential stuff, but at least to tell you what the constitutional issues were that we were dealing with here. So bear with me as we go through this. I'll speak a little bit about the marathon, about what brought us to that to the decisions that were so important around the Constitution, and then mostly I'd like to take questions from people here. So I've been asked to talk for 20 or 30 minutes and then open it up so that we can have a good dialogue, and I can try to do my best to answer as many questions as I can. April 15th is an important day in the city of Boston. It's Patriots Day. This year, the race was the 117th running of the Boston Marathon. So this is an ancient and venerable tradition in the city of Boston, and it's really, really important to the city, to runners, athletes who come in from all over the world. But it's also important to the Commonwealth because it celebrates a day in our history that was so important to the founding of America, Patriots Day. It celebrates all that happened at Lexington and Concord, and how that led to a free democracy and a constitutional democracy, a democracy that is not just based upon what everybody wants to do, but based on certain tenets that we all adhere to. And so that's what's so important about this document. It's a living, breathing document. It lives every time a police officer makes a stop. It lives every time we make a plan to raid a house or to execute a search warrant or an arrest warrant. It's something that in the police world and in the legal world we talk about all the time. The marathon course, as you all know, runs from Hopkinton, Massachusetts into downtown Boston. It's 26.2 miles long. And there are many people in this room that have run it. And I also found out after the bombings that whether you've run the marathon or whether you had a friend that was there that day or whether you shop on Boylston Street or whether you had a relative or you yourself went to school in the city of Boston and happened to walk back and forth, when this assault happened, it was a very personal assault for people around the world. I get calls from police officials literally around the world. And every one of them said something to the effect of, my God, my daughter goes to Northeastern, I was just on Boylston Street. It was really remarkable, the personal assault that this turned into for people. But as you can imagine, in a high-profile event like this, since 9/11, police have spent a lot of time planning to make sure that nothing bad happens. And even though it was over 10 years from the 9/11 attacks, our planning had not changed. Our commitment to security had not changed. If anything, we've been ramping it up over the last several years because of the various threat streams that we receive from the federal government. We have a fusion center, one of 70 national fusion centers located in the city of Boston. It's run by the Boston Police Department. There's a second one that's run in Acton by the state police, but the one in Boston deals with Boston and the metropolitan area. All of the contiguous communities around Boston, we all get together and share information. And we have people working on intelligence, and we are tied into all the federal, state, and other local intelligence operations, and we share information, not only on terrorist information, but also on intelligence that relates to ongoing criminal activity. And so the BRIC, we call it the Boston Regional Intelligence Center, or BRIC. The BRIC plays a very important role in the preparation for this event. It's an international event. If you get down to the finish line, and many of you have been there, there's actually a bridge constructed above the finish line. And that bridge is loaded with media, both print and video and still photographs, media from all over the world. They come to cover their runners. So there's European, Asian, African press. We literally have media from all over the world that are on top of that bridge and taking pictures of the runners as they come in, especially the elite runners. So when you study terrorism, and you know that terrorists are interested in more than just killing people, but they're interested in getting their message out, and you look at that finish line, and I sit there every year, I've sat at that finish line every year, 7 years, you recognize that this is a possible terrorist target. Now, all that stuff is in the background. We do our jobs every day when we prepare for every event in the city. We prepare for first night, we prepare for 4th of July, we prepare for sports events, we prepare for the Boston Marathon. The same process is followed. We bring in the FBI, we bring in all of the intelligence agencies' stream of information, and we sit down and we talk about what threats there are to this event. And that happened in this particular case. There were no, and the terminology is always the same. There was no specific threat to the Boston Marathon. That's what we got from everybody. That's what we believed ourselves. And that was true in the days leading up to the Boston Marathon. However, there were two lone wolves, two people that were operating in a small town, just, actually not small town, in Cambridge actually, just north of us, who had their own plans, who hadn't talked to anybody else, who were not dealing with international terrorist groups that we monitor, but were hatching a plan that would turn the city on its head. And despite all of our preparations, they were able to sneak in. And we'll talk a little bit about how they did that. We had 854 police officers assigned to the 2.5 miles that the route runs through Boston. It comes into the city out by the colleges, BU and BC, it comes down in through Kenmore Square, and then takes a hard right and up onto Boylston Street. And those 850 police officers were assigned in that shot area, with the bulk of them being assigned at the finish line. We did undercover operations inside the crowds at the finish line. We had plainclothes officers that were working the crowd looking for suspicious activity like a terrorist, but also for simple things like pickpockets that we have a problem with at the finish line. They were out there working. I actually talked to them that morning. At 7 o'clock in the morning, our protocol, much like with a presidential event, is to send bomb-sniffing dogs into the race course. So they start up by Hereford Street and they go down Boylston Street from all those blocks on both sides of the street. On the right-hand side of the street, as you approach the finish line, there's a VIP area. That VIP area is locked down about 4 o'clock in the morning. It's searched by bomb dogs, and then police are stationed there to keep it secure. Anybody in my business knows that you can search a place with a dog, a bomb-sniffing dog. You can bring in equipment to try to find out if there are bombs in that area. But if you don't keep security on that particular location, you've lost your ability to say that location is secure. And so it's fine when you're locking down a 3-block area that you've set aside for the governor and the mayor and some high-ranking people for sponsors of this event. But in a course that's 26.2 miles long, you cannot lock it down. 8,000 runners, some in this room, were stopped by 2 police officers who walked out onto the course. It's funny, I had about a month after this incident happened, the ambassador from India came to visit, along with a contingent of police officials from Mumbai. In 2008, Mumbai suffered a terrible terrorist attack. And the police chief came and sat down and looked at some of the same information that you're looking at. And when he saw this photo, he said, "Tell me again what happened here." And I said, well, 2 police officers right outside of Kenmore Square walked out and stopped what amounted to about 8,000 runners. So he laughed and he said, "This would not happen in my country." And it's an interesting, that's an interesting theme, because people have respect for the law here, and that applies to almost everything that we do. So the investigation goes on. That sets the scene for what we're dealing with. Investigation goes on. We get the pictures of the suspects out, and there's a big debate as to whether or not we put the pictures out. And some of that debate was constitutional in nature. We don't know that these guys were the ones that did it. We have some very good video evidence, but if we put their picture out, will someone harm them? Should we keep the picture to ourselves and not engage the community in this search? And then the other side of the argument was, we have baseball games, we have hockey games, we have basketball game's about to start. How do we not tell people that these two guys are out there? How do we not protect the community? That debate raged for a couple of days. On Thursday, around 5 o'clock, we released the photos. And then just after that, at about 10 o'clock that night, these two guys went active. So two things happened constitutionally. The first one affected the Fifth Amendment. I got a call from the United States Attorney's Office, and they said, we are adopting this case as a terrorist case, and under the provisions of the terrorist law, I want you to notify all of your officers that if they come across this suspect and take him into custody, you are prohibited from issuing a Miranda warning. I said, who is this? This is the U.S. Attorney's Office that has a Civil Rights Division? You're telling me I can't read somebody his rights? If not, you are prohibited under this statute to read him his rights. I said, well, we're going to have to talk about this, Carmen, but you're the boss. You're in charge of the prosecution. I'll get that word out to my guys, but quite frankly, I'd never heard of it before. It's part of the new protection laws that were passed after 9/11. Congress has come to the opinion that this, in an ongoing case where there may be active terrorists, it's sort of one of those 24 or Homeland kind of scenarios that they put out there. The federal government was deeming it that important that they suspended Miranda. And then the other thing was the shutdown of the transit system. As you can see right here, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts entered into an agreement that the right thing to do was to shut down the whole transit system. Now that doesn't happen lightly, but because of the information that we had between 2:30 and 4:30 in the morning on April 20th, 19th, whatever, Friday morning, we were engaged in a debate as to what was prudent, what was the safest thing to do for the community. Now, let me just set that up for a second. As I told you, there's things I can't tell you about this, but I can point out who was involved in the conversation. The mayor of the city of Boston, Thomas Menino, a leading Democratic mayor. He's the guy that bans cigarettes in Boston. He doesn't let us drink Coca-Cola in our buildings anymore, right? Leading Democratic liberal mayor. Deval Patrick, the governor of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. A man that is a leading member of the Democratic Party, a liberal governor from Massachusetts. A man that was formerly in the Civil Rights Division of the United States Attorney's Office. So these are the two key political operatives that the police structure is reporting up to. And the governor is the man that has to make the final decision with input from everybody at that table as to whether or not we shut down the transit system in the city of Boston. So our first attempt was to shut down the bus route that went right into Arsenal Mall and right past Dexter and Laurel Street for fear that the suspect could get on the bus. And then we met with Rich Davies, who is the head of transportation in Massachusetts. And he said, we can't shut down a single bus route. The governor said, why? He said, well, if we shut it down, then people are going to be left on the street, wherever we shut it down. Well, we really need to shut this down. Well, you're going to have to consider shutting down that whole area of the transit system, which would have been Watertown and the contiguous communities, including sections of Boston, Allston and Brighton. And that was the initial plan about 3:30 in the morning. But then we started to develop more information about South Station. And it became clear from our information that the prudent thing would be to shut down the whole transit system. And there was a lot of debate about it. We were sitting in a small truck with all the police officials, and we were having a conversation about what we should do. And during the course of that debate, the governor of Massachusetts decided, and he said this, he said, are you talking about from Lowell to Fall River? And they said, yes, Governor. It's an all or nothing proposition. It's 4:30, 4:30, it's getting closer to 5 o'clock. We have to get the word out before people start to leave their homes. Kurt Schwartz from the state one of our deputy secretaries, undersecretaries of public safety, said, "Governor, consider it a snow day." It happens all the time in Massachusetts. This is at least as dangerous as somebody sliding on the ice and crashing into someone. So we sent the order out. Shelter in place. This was not, by the way, enforceable by law. This was a recommendation. No one got arrested who violated this. It was simply a recommendation that the best thing that you can do is stay home until we get this situation settled. And by later on that night, the suspect was captured. We did house-to-house searches, and ultimately, at about 7 o'clock that night, not with all the power of the United States government and the police and everybody that was there, but through one citizen that had been cooped up in the house all day and his wife wouldn't let him have a cigarette. He needed a cigarette real bad, and he went out back, and he saw the suspect and called us, and that's how we caught the bad guy. The remarkable story, but the issues around the Fifth Amendment, the Fourth Amendment, the 14th Amendment, the Sixth Amendment, the Fifth Amendment, all of those amendments that relate to, equal protection and search and seizure and the right to an attorney and a speedy trial, all of those things came into play. They were all dealt with, I believe, effectively, and we protected the rights of the citizens as well as the suspects in this particular thing. It's all going to be adjudicated. Everybody might have their own opinion on this, but believe me, it'll all come out eventually. Thank you very much.